Hello, beautiful light beings. Welcome to Source Energetics. In this video, I want to help you really decode and reflect on all of the lessons and activations that you've learned in 2024. I know that 2024 has been an insane year, and it's beyond words to describe what truly occurred because it's definitely beyond our comprehension, but still we could decode it and share the frequencies and the reflections. And so it's my intention to truly help you integrate and stabilize and embody the activations and lessons that you've unlocked this year. As you probably know, a lot of mistakes that people make on the path of spiritual awakening is that they just chase after activations and new lessons and new states, and they forget to truly integrate and stabilize those codes. And so we're not going to make that mistake. We're just going to go through everything and integrate, embody, and stabilize these new paradigms. So I'm going to be channeling and I'm going to be using cards because it'll give you something nice to look at, and you can go ahead and choose a pile or a number that resonates with you. You can choose more than one, or you could choose all three depending on your resonance. Thank you for tuning in and allowing me to serve you. And without further ado, let's get into the reading. Pile number one. I'm sorry for the lighting and the camera angle situation because that's not my expertise, but I promise the reading is going to be next level because that's what I do. So first we're going to go through what you've learned and activated in this year of 2024. Then we're going to look at your current energies, after all of that has been activated. What are you moving through currently? Then we're going to go through your future energies, and then we're going to look at your integration points, or what exactly do you have to do? Well, you don't have to, but what is suggested for you to actually make the most out of what you have learned and activated so that you could genuinely stabilize it in your life. So the first pile here is what you've activated and learned. We have first card you have is support. Damn, the lighting's just not cooperating with me. Is that gonna... Second card you have triumph. Third card you have overload. Fourth you have alchemy. That would be the magician archetype. Then you have transitioning. This is death, basically. It's a nice way to say death. Then we have explore. Then we have dreamweaver. Then we have beginning. You have some insane energies going. We have wisdom keeper, generosity, and the last card here is passion. Since that looks like such a primary card, I will leave it there. The very first message that you're getting is to trust your passion. Whenever you feel like something is really challenging, or that there's way too much that you don't know how to deal with it, way too much going on, way too much that is expected of you from yourself, even not, it doesn't even have to be from others, but this almost looks like you're pressuring yourself because you're really used to doing everything by yourself. Like if you see this, but one of the main lessons that you've learned this year, is that you have support, and you've actually successfully learned that in your own way. So if you look at this, it's like somebody you could lean on. And then there's the bee, which operates as a hive network. And so this shows me that you've been connecting with people who you can genuinely trust. This may have been a lesson that you had to learn throughout your life, or maybe filtrations that you had to do, or learn how to discern who to trust and how to trust and when to trust. But in general, it looks like you've successfully learned the lesson of discernment around people. And now you're basically activating a part of yourself that you can just truly rely on support. And when I say rely, it doesn't mean like codependently rely, but genuinely trust in the support that is there. And whenever you feel like there's way too much happening, just take a step back and follow one step at a time what excites you. And the rest will just kind of take care of itself. It'll put you in a vibratory frequency where if you think you have to do 10 different things, but in reality, what actually needs to get done and how it's going to go is rarely ever, or actually, I could even say almost never, the way that you think the process is going to go. It's never the way that you strategize or plan. I mean, the function of your mind that strategizes and plans is there because it kind of helps you prepare like 10% of the picture, and it's effective for just a small increment of what actually is going to happen. But things rarely ever go as you plan. I mean, if you if you ever get like psychic readings done, or if you are an oracle yourself, you probably know, even if you have very key details, the way that it actually unfolds is never like how you could imagine. Like, life is multidimensional. It just cannot possibly be planned for or strategized for. I mean, the strategies work to a certain extent, is helpful to a certain extent. So what it's actually activating you is this knowing that as long as you follow what excites you and what you're passionate about, what you're genuinely, instinctively, intuitively guided to do, that takes care of the rest of the calibration. Because when you're following what you're excited about doing, you're in alignment. And this is genuine excitement. And you have to be at a level to be able to tell, is that actually what you're excited about, or is that what you think you should do? You have to be able to clearly discern the true, genuine excitement and bliss, and what makes you move in alignment in an organic way. And I just want to share something that I've personally learned. I used to struggle with this a lot, even up until last year, where I would try to create a support network, say, for example, by hiring people to help me with certain things, whether it be assistants or getting collaborators to do different things together. And then I would have times where I just get burnt from doing that because I was still in the process of learning the art of human discernment, like people discernment. And what I've learned, first of all, is that the primary assistance that you begin to allow is with the divine and is with universal energies. So, and you feel like you need somebody to help you with A, B, and C. Before that somebody comes into the picture, the more important part of it is for you to literally outsource that assistance to the divine. And then anyone who's there to help you, or any network that comes into the picture, is a result of you actually releasing and surrendering to get assistance from the divine, basically. And sometimes it ends up that you don't even need to get anyone to help you. And sometimes it comes in a way that other people that you weren't expecting help you in an area that you weren't expecting, a different area that you weren't expecting, freeing your attention and energy to actually get something done that you could actually do yourself. So when you were assuming, well, I need to do all these other things so that I need to help with A, B, and C, sometimes when you request divine assistance, they'll send assistance in another aspect, and then it frees up your energy to focus on whatever it is that you originally thought that you needed help from. So assistance is always there. And this really talks about being in alignment with yourself. I just find it so funny when people talk about, like, oh, you need to network, you need to meet the right people, you need to create human connections so that you could have a community, blah, blah, blah. But really, foundationally, what you need, the only connection that you truly need, a true, open-hearted, genuine connection that is fundamental to any of that, and that the actual human networks is a byproduct of that, is a connection with your soul and higher self and the divine. Because when you're basically in tune with your soul and your oversoul, your soul, your oversoul is basically already just naturally, organically operating as a network consciousness with every facet of life, whether that be people, environment, influences, energies. So whereas people think I need to make connections in this or create a network in that, all you need is really basically a true open connection, genuinely aligned to your higher self and your oversoul, because those levels of yourself is already fucking operating at a network level with the highest level resources you can possibly imagine. The right people, the right situations, the right circumstances. You don't have to do this from an egoic level. But what happens when people don't prioritize that vertical relationship with self on all different levels, completely aligned, and they try to go and make external networks or connections from an egoic level, is that they will create distortions and attract people that are operating on an egoic basis as well. When you're operating on a soul level, you attract energies that are also operating on a soul level, other people who are just completely attuned to their higher self, and then the networking is being done on a higher level. But when you're focused on the egoic basis and trying to actually make this happen inorganically, you're gonna attract the same type of people who are operating on an egoic connection, and then it's just gonna be ineffective. So anyway, you are learning to let go of this idea of hyper independence, which also this is a result of an attachment style, of an avoidant attachment style. And even if you think you might be an anxious attachment person, not to label you as anything, not to label yourself, but if you have those tendencies, you could still operate in a certain way in this over independence, which is avoidant to some degree. So just ask yourself, do you feel comfortable taking up space, whether it's an actual shared space or in a community or in a relationship dynamic, anything like that? And are you comfortable with receiving help and giving help freely? Imagine you genuinely want to help someone and it's so easy for you that it's not even something you have to think twice. For someone, doing something might be so organic that it just takes 1 second. Whereas when it's another person that's trying to do that, it would be a lot of effort. So if somebody's able to actually do that, be of assistance because they're just wired to effortlessly do that, then are you able to just receive that? Okay. We have alchemy and wisdom keeper. So I feel like you've been activating a lot of, first of all, imposter syndrome, because you're definitely a wisdom keeper. And I think you're kind of really transitioning. When this transition card is coming up, I see this one specifically as, coming into a place of truly, genuinely seeing yourself for who you are at your soul's essence, instead of all of the parts of yourself that you are not willing to let go, or in all of the ways that you've been conditioned to view yourself. The image that comes to mind is like when a lion is wearing sheep's cloak or whatever and thought that it was a sheep because it was with a herd of sheep. I feel like you're kind of really waking up from the illusion of how you see yourself. And it's not like you didn't know that you are. I guess you would say this is an elder. And, elders don't come quite literally as the physical aesthetics of an elder in this day and age. It comes in all shapes, sizes, forms, and ages. So, but it's like some people just have a soul lineage wherein for eons of time, they've took on the archetype of the wisdom keeper, the educator. So imagine even like light beings who would come and teach humanity in its evolution, you know, through its different evolutionary cycles. There's specific light beings that people would call angels or whatnot, that would assist in, for example, creating the pyramids on Earth and things like that. So if you have that kind of soul lineage where this was like your specialty, it doesn't matter if you're in a physical form that doesn't necessarily reflect that. That's genuinely who you are. You carry frequencies, information, and teachings that preserve the lineage of that wisdom. And that's what you're stepping into, really becoming and transmuting the way you genuinely the way you perceive yourself. And again, the word that comes up is imposter syndrome. I don't know if you are ever scanning your own energy and feeling like the imposter syndrome was there, but it was to a certain degree, because if you really truly took on your genuine archetype, I think that you wouldn't even have to think twice about feeling like you need to do everything on your own, because on that level, once again, your consciousness operates as a network. And it's like the illusion of doing things by yourself, it doesn't even actually make sense. So, right now, you know, in the past year, what you've also been activating is your ability to explore your own visions and your own imagination, because people have an ability to imagine to the degree that is actually aligned to their potentials. If you are imagining, for example, your best life ever, and then you imagine up a best case scenario that's never going to be anyway similar to another person who's completely different than you imagining their best case scenario either. I mean, if you really, really get down to it and you're really aligned to your soul, and I feel like I'm obviously speaking to a group of people who are genuinely aligned to their higher self or their soul, then what you think might be too good to be true is not necessarily too good to be true, but you just have to move out of the way for that frequency to unfold. I remember I had a channeling session with Andromedans, and I was speaking to them about the severity of the mission pieces. And I say mission pieces because some people, their code of a mission is not necessarily best described as a mission. Sometimes it's more of an open field, or there's more fluidity. It's not any way inferior than if you have a very defined purpose. It's genuinely like comparing elements. If you have air versus water versus earth, say that like a mission that is actually coded would be like a crystalline earth element, or you could even call that metal. But then some people have a mission that is more like water, that is more fluid, that can fluctuate in its path. And then some people, it's like air, it's like completely undefined, and it's like the abstract frequencies that matter for you to embody certain qualities. So when you have a mission or the amalgamation of purpose that is more like air, for example, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my mission is. I don't think I have one. Well, it just means you get to embody certain abstract qualities, and that is such a powerful mission. Like, it could be freedom, beauty, prosperity, and like you just embody those qualities, and that would be your mission. It's very ethereal. But for example, if you have a mission that is more concretized, that would be like crystalline. Earth/metal. The reason why I'm saying this, I don't even remember. Like, I literally just went off in a tangent. I'm just gonna get back to I genuinely don't remember what I was gonna say. Look, all I'm saying is, whatever you can envision or imagine, if you're in alignment with your soul, it's not just imagination. It falls under the category of what is genuinely possible for you. And imagination uses the same faculty of mind as actually receiving prophecies. So it's like a blurred line between the two. And if you're the type of person who's actually genuinely aligned to their higher self, then what you can imagine is actually the extent of your imagination. Imagine there's just like infinite possibilities of anything you can imagine. Generally, it's an open field of whatever you can imagine. What you're gonna end up imagining, even if you think that what you're imagining is so far off, is still under the parameters of your circuitry, your energetic circuitry. So it's not that far off. Any future that we can imagine as a collective as well, even if it might be ridiculously out of the box, imagine if we went to Andromeda, that is so far off, for example, like, oh, that just is not possible. No, it actually, on the scale of possible and impossible, it's more possible than impossible. Because if it was actually impossible, it would be outside of the scope of our imagination. Like, that's actually impossible. There's tons of things that are outside of our scope of our imagination because that's not actually possible. But as long as you could actually imagine it, the reason is because it's actually within the range of possibility. Yes. Okay, so we have a new beginning. So you're gonna have a new beginning. Look, you have a transitioning and then beginning. Death and a rebirth. Shout out to my Patreons who may be seeing this every freaking week. And generosity. So what I'm drawn to is this rainbow body. And I feel like like when this also comes with Wisdom Keeper, the wisdom that you're here to share is like genuinely blessings to people. Whoever's going to end up receiving it, the way that you're going to transmit your wisdom, knowledge, information is a gift. It's generous. And so don't hold back. I mean, process your things. I think you have to come into a cycle of really sitting with this idea of being a wisdom keeper. Obviously, there's going to be some people in the group who accidentally ends up in the resonance of this that is not genuinely a wisdom keeper, and that's not something that any of us can prevent. It happens. But for the most part, most of you are actual wisdom keepers. And the way you would know is that if you're genuinely a wisdom keeper, there's gonna be a core resonance that doesn't have the fluff of an ego when you are genuinely that. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm the wisdom keeper, like better than everybody else. Like, no, it comes with like a very deep sense of responsibility. And just like, I would say, instead of like the surface waves on an ocean when it comes to interacting with this information, whereas the people who are less likely to be a wisdom keeper, when they come across this information, their energetic response to this would be like waves crashing on the surface of the ocean. Whereas if you are genuinely this, it would be like the frequency of the bottom of the ocean. But if you're watching this and you're having those surface wave emotions, then you probably have an ability to activate this, but you just need inner work. Good luck. Okay, I'm gonna move on to current energies. This is a long reading. Current energies that you are currently moving through. Flamingo spirit, embrace the in-between. That came up with the transition card too. So you're in a very strange in-between energy, like limbo. It feels like you're stuck in a limbo, but you're actually just cocooning. Like, it's like you're a fetus right now, growing and growing. And it's in this in-between stage where you're not really nothing, but you're not really something either. You're in the middle of it. Now is a lucky time. Anything, because you're in this transition space, this reminds me of like the liminal space of consciousness. So if you're not familiar with the liminal space of consciousness, it is literally a transitory space between more concrete states of consciousness. So I'll give you an example. Is like a waking state versus a sleeping state. There is a transitionary state between your waking space and the sleeping state that is one of the examples of a liminal space of consciousness. And that space is the most fertile space. If I told you the potentials of what you can accomplish in that liminal space, like people always talk about lucid dreaming, like, oh, like whatever you could do in a lucid dream, that's like going to change your life. But in my opinion, what you do in the liminal space between waking and sleeping before you even fall asleep, that is the most fertile, capitalizable space of consciousness with your intention. So that's why people talk about falling asleep. Like if you guys know Neville Goddard or any of these other teachings, they talk about falling asleep while imagining something that you want to happen. Obviously, like that's just one of the ways you could actually use that liminal space, because what will happen is when you are thinking about something and then you're falling asleep, what makes it so powerful is that it programs the liminal space. And then that is the place where so much happens, because it's actually really private as well. So when you're in a waking space and then when you're in the sleeping space, both of it is kind of more communal with other energies. But in the liminal space, it's literally just you. If I could even say that you're an individuated being, it's a very individuated space that is relevant to your soul's expression here incarnate on earth. If there was a private space, that would be it. And so it's a very fertile space. So, I mean, this could be a sign for you to actually use it. Like, this is the current energies that you're moving, but that's just a metaphor for the transition period that you're in right now. Right now, you're in a liminal space between one step, one stage, one book of your life to the next book of your life. I wouldn't even say this is a chapter, because this is like a completely different paradigm shift that you're going through. Like, you're basically shifting into a completely new. You saw that wisdom keeper card, like you're basically stepping into a new archetype. And you saw that death card that was nicely called transition, which is actually a death and a rebirth, with a fool card, which is like the complete new cycle of the macrocosm. You're basically moving into one macrocosm to the next macrocosm of your fucking reality. So just like how in the liminal space of your consciousness between waking and sleeping is so fertile, so is this period right now. So when you're hearing that right now is a very fertile period of your life, don't panic trying to be like, okay, well, what do I have to do? How to make the most out of it? You might also just start with this idea of peace. Like, don't frantically feel like you have to do anything to make the most out of it. That's a nice programming to have. That's a nice programming to seed. Whatever you end up doing in this time will be the best thing anyway. I'm just letting you know that it's very fertile. So if there are certain things that you want to progress on in the next cycle of your life, which I would even say it could be like 7 earthly years, 7 earthly lives, 7 earthly years. It might be the next, official stage. But if there's something that you'd really like to harvest in that next cycle of your life, begin at least the first step now. Whether it's even just like envisioning or journaling about it, or you actually take a tangible step, it's a really good time to do that right now. We have There's Always Enough. This is the abundance card, but this exactly is similar to what I just said. If you have a sense of panic around time, when I told you, well, this is a very fertile time, and then your automatic response is like, well, I need to make the most out of it because there's not enough, there's not enough cycle. There's always going to be enough, even cycles of time, even chances to program your life. So, abundance consciousness, which is so far beyond how people think that it is, could be one of the most core themes that you're working with right now. Be loyal to what you love. So this follows the whole passion card as well. See the big picture. So right now you're getting a really kind of overview on, again, the next cycle of your life is going to be drastically different from the previous cycle of your life. So you might be going through a time currently where you're like a lot of the things that are coming together. So if you just look at the last 7 to 10 years of your life, see how it's progressed, because you're going to have weaved through different themes in the last cycle of time. Like say the first couple of years, then the next couple of years, then the next couple of years. You may have gone through multiple stages. So just take time to zoom up and reflect on that entire cycle, because it's leading you to the next cycle where all of those are going to kind of weave through. And you may literally even think, like if you look at the past, let's say 7 years for the sake of, or but it's more probably going to be likely 10, because earthly years just have a progressive stage, like things just bleed into each other. So the first couple of years you explored this, that, and this theme, and then you moved on to the next theme, and then you moved on to the next theme, like major core themes. You might think like, well, I had to move through all these different phases and none of it really had a completion. Well, it's not supposed to have a completion, because it's leading to the next stage where all of that is going to connect the dots and then go to the next stage. Okay, we have Hawk Spirit, let your spirit be your guide. So this is just a reminder that you have spiritual assistance and guidance. I think sometimes for some reason you forget everything is well coordinated, especially for you. Okay, now we have the Six of Pentacles, which is actually the exact same energy as an equal exchange, give and receive. You're both the giver and the receiver, and whatever you give, you end up receiving, as long as you're in alignment with yourself, like in ways that you can't really imagine. So this is similar to that card that we saw before when we were talking about receiving support. So that's what where you're moving right now, is being comfortable with both giving and receiving. But there's like some area of your life where you are being offered something really, like it's really literally right in front of you, and you are unable to see that it's a really auspicious opportunity or an offering. And I feel like you're a little bit hurt. Like, look at this guy, he just like looks pissed. And this is like it's like he's a little bit traumatized from previous times where he received offers and then they ended up turning sour. So that's literally how it looks. Like, oh, why should I trust this offer? But you'd be surprised. So whenever, that's a lesson of whenever you open new doors, whenever you say yes to an opportunity or an offer, it may not be what you thought it was going to be, but it like accumulates. It's like compounds into a completely different kind of blessing. So it's not like individuated blessings with each offer, but each offer and the lessons that you learn shape into a compound blessing. And that's not what you think, but look, just receive and say yes to things without expectations. That was your action, one of your lessons. Like, don't, expectations are just attachments that you shouldn't really pay too much attention to that level of mind anyway. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but a nice suggestion would be to, like, expectations and attachments arise from just a certain level of mind. It's just like one bandwidth of your mind. And that level of your mind is always annoying. Like, you can't resolve that level. Its job is to be annoying. So if you dwell in that level, it's always going to feel annoying. So you can just tune into a higher level of mind instead of fear. Look at that death card. Did you see that? Literally, you have 2 deaths. Shout out to the Patreons who be seeing this every freaking week. Then we have the King of Swords. Okay, look, so this is kind of like a stoicism card where you're being strategic about the emotional turbulence. And you're being discerning, and it's a level like a little bit defensive as well. But what's funny is, like, when you receive this opportunity or offer, it comes as a package that may seem exactly the same as the ones that you have received before, but that's just the packaging. Like this one is actually got so much substance in it that you're going to be surprised. And for you, what this is, whatever this offer or opportunity is, you might be thinking that it's something in your life that you might have examples of like what this could be from your current energies, because this is all from your current energies. You have this opportunity right now, but it might not actually be what you think it is. It might be something else that you're not thinking of. So the only way to find out is go through it. We have success and triumph. We have another triumph card. You had the triumph card in the previous energy. So yeah, success. But what I also want to say is that this part of you that is quite discerning, that feels stoic, that's actually a valid trait. So I want to say, like, that's not really a bad energy to have at all, but just be mindful of when you use this type of energy. It's not applicable to all situations, just some. Then we have the Knight of Swords, which is fast moving. Aw. So what is gonna happen is that whatever this situation is, that is literally, this opportunity is going to transform your life. Basically, literally going to transform your life, and then you're going to triumph. And this opportunity, coming into this triumph and victory and success, is swiftly going to heal you. Like the healing is going to be, it's like you're going to have instant healing of all of these traumas that you carried on about opportunities not panning out the way you wanted it to, people hurting your feelings, people just taking advantage of you, everything. Like you're going to receive this, I would say, quantum level healing. You know, when like just by grace, something just heals. Like, have you ever had that happen where something just resolves itself? That's going to happen. Okay. Those light codes, light initiation, great teacher, awakening. Look at that. You're stepping into this, like the wisdom keeper energy is coming up. The great teacher is coming up. You're going to step into the role of a great teacher. Like you genuinely have a lot to teach. Then we have the Chamber of the Violet Flame, karmic release, radical transformation. So that speaks about that swift, radical healing that you are receiving. And once you hold those codes of healing something and receiving healing to that degree, you have an ability to actually activate that level of healing for other people. You carry a certain energetic pattern when you heal yourself to this degree, or you don't heal yourself. This is actually happening from the it's given to you, it's bestowed on you. But when you allow yourself to receive that bestowal, you have the ability to then energetically assist other people to activate that same receptivity. Then the last card here is Heart of Source, all encompassing love, unconditional acceptance, serenity. I have no other thing to describe the Heart of Source coming with the star. The last thing that I'll add is like, look, you're activating a level of divinity, and you're activating a level of alignment to like the true essence of yourself that feels so natural for you to exist in. Okay, so that's your current energies. That's amazing. Congratulations. Next, we have future energies. Don't get attached. Just a glimpse. We have abundance. Look at you. It's one of the, I just love that whole energy. Trust. Wait, let me put it here. And guidance. So you continually are receiving a reminder that you're being guided at every step. I feel like you have this kind of expectation for you to suddenly lose track of your navigation. So like what I'm seeing quite literally is like your energy. Like, look, I'm talking about you as an abstract being. Or personally, I know you personally. Maybe I know you personally. You are in your brain somewhere, in the pattern recognition aspect of your brain. It's thinking of the times where you lost navigation of the path that you take in life. But this was so long ago. This was like not relevant to the level of attunement that you have with yourself now, because you've worked on your attunement and your, you know, alignment to yourself for so many years. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you have. I mean, I rarely attract people who are like newbies to the path. So, I mean, if you're a newbie, no worries. If you've watched this far, then you're probably not a noob, even if you might be. Like, in essence, you're not a noob. So, trust the guidance. Like, literally every single signal that you are receiving and responding to are parts of the guidance. So don't doubt yourself. I feel like you just need to learn to give yourself more credit and your abilities. And again, that imposter syndrome thing comes up, where sometimes you even doubt your ability to tune into yourself, but you're really good at it. So it's just another reminder that you are being constantly guided. Okay, this is the future energy. Okay, so you have abundance in your future, lots of it in all different forms. And there's a part of you that is asking yourself, am I able to trust myself to handle this? Because this is not like the type of paradigm that you've lived before. And, you know, people have this, say, for example, like easiest example is money. If you go from like being in a one tax bracket to the next tax brackets, or maybe it's like a couple tax brackets, people have this idea like, can I handle that change? But what you're being shown is like, you know, and this is valid for literally everything. It's not about trusting yourself to have experience in different things, but it's about trusting yourself in your experience of actually tuning into your higher self. Because from there, it can guide you through every path, even if you have zero experience charting a different territory. Even if you have no experience charting a specific territory, the only true territory that you truly need experience in is tuning into yourself, is tuning into your own guidance, is tuning into your higher self. Once you have that down, you could go to any territory and ace it. We have Mother of the Saltwaters, Passion. You have another card for passion. So trusting your passion, once again, I feel like, didn't we literally just have the same freaking cards in a different deck? Trust and passion. Well, I'm saying trust in what you're excited about. Trust in your passion. If you are facing choices of like where to take your direction, your life, whatever, a person, relationship, situation, just ask yourself if you are excited about it. And as long as you know, are a complete new beginner with inner work, and maybe somebody hasn't gone through the stages of deprogramming what is truly theirs and not, like if they don't have psychic boundaries, versus somebody who's actually done the work of deprogramming, deplugging from what is not authentically their soul, at the stage where you've done enough inner work, you can genuinely trust what you're excited about. We have Isle of Avalon, healing, returning to wholeness, transformation. Transformation, that's another death card. Transition, healing, planetary wave, soul mission, trust the inner call, soul team. Well, we were just talking about soul missions and the soul team and everything. Trusting the inner call, trusting what you're excited about. If there's something, look, if I were to, sometimes I have clients that come in and literally tell me, I don't understand what my soul mission is and I want to find out, and I have no signs or clues what they are. And then I'd just be like, if you could just start from a blank page, forget who you are, and literally imagine that you could design one for yourself. Not even like, oh, what is it that my soul has chosen? But imagine you could just pick whatever it is that is your soul mission. What would that be? Because whatever you think is like the most exciting things. Like, well, say for example that you might be the most excited about music, but there's no evidence in your life that that is your path, and you wish that was your soul mission. That's probably your fucking soul mission. Otherwise, why would you want that? Sorry. Let it rain. Allowing what is inevitability. Trust. You have so many cards around trust. Bitch, drop your trust issues. The water carrier. What really matters, reflect, reprioritize. So with this, what I feel is that you need to there's things that you think you have to do. Literally, it crowds up your life and it refrains you from saying yes to things that you actually want to do. So take your time. Like, again, remember when I said when you have a bunch of tasks that you think you have to do, all you have to do is figure out of all those tasks, what are you most excited about doing? And then once you actually get going on that, everything else will just kind of recalibrate itself around what it is that you chose to do. So if you're thinking like, well, this is easier to do, that is quicker to do, and then you don't actually do what you're the most excited to do, then you're going to continue that pattern of scatter because that was never the most aligned. Obviously, there are core things that you have to do that you're responsible for. I'm not talking about those, but I'm talking about everything else. Like, yeah, feed yourself, pay your bills, clean yourself, whatever. Core things need to get done. But when it comes to like the other options of like your creative pursuits or how you choose to spend the rest of your time, a lot of people spend time doing what they think they should do. They don't actually do what it is that they want to do the most because they have some sort of an idea that somehow everything is going to get done in time. And so they need to just clear off all the tasks. But let me tell you something, out of all the things that you think you need to do, what actually ends up getting done in the human plane is maybe like 30%. So if you choose, oh, I'm going to do this because it's quicker, I'm going to do that because it's easier, I'm going to do that because it looks like it needs to get done, instead of actually focusing seriously on what is the most exciting for you, what is the most exciting for you might never get done. And that you're just scattering everything else. Okay, sorry to yell. Sometimes I just start yelling and that's the energy. I'm sorry. Like, I need to yell at you for some reason. So, okay, last cards is integration points. The freaking whole point of this reading is how do you integrate everything that you've activated and learned this year? Order. Trust in the divine order. Like, there is literally a higher order that is orchestrating everything. And for you, it's like to trust in that order. You're not figuring this out on a human level. You're just responding to the order that is already there. And part of what connects you to that order is that passion. Like, what are you actually freaking excited about? And getting out of the zone of having imposter syndrome. Oh, well, can I actually, like, when people are actually genuinely excited and they don't have a sense of worthiness to actually pursue it, because people think, well, who am I to do that? Like, that sounds like something that would be good for somebody that's really meant to do that. Well, no, it's you. If you actually like it, it's yours. And if you don't follow it, then you're just going to end up doing mediocre things all your life. So what are you actually freaking excited about? Spontaneity, resistance. You're resisting spontaneity because of everything that I've mentioned. Like, sometimes you're not tapping into what you're the most excited to do. Like, really, instead of defaulting, because if I even say follow your excitement and bliss, which everybody says that, like, I'm not the first person to say this. People say that all the time, like Bashar or whatever, all these channelers, they talk about the power of following your bliss and your excitement, trusting your desires, trusting your bliss, trusting your passion. Like, it's literally a navigation system. It's not there just to lure you or tease you. It's genuinely a navigational tool, is to follow the frequency of excitement that is not just fleeting. Obviously, there's excitement that is like a dopamine chase, like instant gratification, but there's another level of excitement that is fueled from like a deep core of you. So if you follow that, you're gonna follow the path of the divine order instead of scattering. But you have a tendency to resist that navigation, or some of the ways that it'll spontaneously unfold. And even if I say, again, follow that blissful frequency and see where that guides you, Some people are going to default, well, this is what I usually get excited about. This is what I usually like. So no, I'm not talking about what are you usually excited about. I'm talking about like right now, at every moment, you have to like clear your mind and your preconceptions and genuinely tune in to every choice points whenever you have a chance to tune in what actually excites you. And there's a tendency, there's a cognitive bias for people to tend to want to invest their energy in something that they have already worked on. So for example, like people have an idea, like if you start reading a book and then you're not excited about it anymore, you're at like a halfway point, people have this cognitive bias like, well, because I started this book, I have to finish it. And then they end up not reading another book that would have actually been way more exciting because they have this cognitive bias of like, I have to finish what I was reading before because I already read it. No, but you know, there's like billions of books in the world and you'll never read most of them. So if you lose interest in a book, maybe that's all you needed to read and you just need to move on to something that is more exciting, that's going to align you better to what you need to know. And that goes for literally everything. It goes for projects, it goes for people, it goes for literally everything. So watch out for that cognitive bias. Okay. Refresh. Look at that. That is such a uncanny, like that is this creepy ass picture. But you're being newborn. Like, look, you're being reborn into a new stage in life. You're a baby. Okay, joy, hummingbird, priestess, intuition, queen, sovereignty, queen and priestess. It's like divine feminine energies arising. So it just, again, reiterates what I was talking about. When you follow your intuition, it's going to lead you to spontaneous things, that the spontaneous direction of the way that your intuition and your sovereign kind of stream of consciousness is going to take you, it's going to first look disorderly. It's going to look chaotic and it's going to look like there's no order behind it. But on a long-term scale, it's going to crystallize into order. Do not steal. Know this. This is, don't worry. It's not saying that. This is like, don't worry about it. The idea of more being better brings pleasurable feelings to your mind, and this self-generating thought form is both convincing and self-serving. This just talks about, get away. This just talks about more is not necessarily better. So for me, in this whole context, it talks about, you have this idea that you need to get more done. You don't need to get more done. You don't need to do as many things as possible. You don't need to read as many books as you think you need to read. You don't need to produce as many outcomes as you think you need to produce. What matters is you, even if you read one freaking book, that it's aligned to what you were supposed to read and that you read it properly. One of my favorite philosophers, Naval Ravikant, who's also a futurist and a tech, talks about he's genuinely not concerned about reading any new books, but he's concerned about reading the 10 most important books that he just wants to read over and over and over again. Because if you genuinely take a multidimensional book and you read it, you could read it 100 freaking times and you'll get a different message. I mean, that's just a metaphor. And the same thing goes for your output. Like whatever you create is not about how much you create, but it's about the alignment and the dimensionality to that output. Obviously, follow your intuition and do what you want, but that's the integration message at this point. Okay, thank you so much for spending time with me. If you love my transmissions, definitely check out my membership, which is on Patreon. And I put out so much exclusive, well, all the content there is exclusive, and I do in-depth readings and activations there. Or you can check out my website where you can see what I teach. Sending lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. If you're one of those people who watch every single pile, you'll notice that the setting keeps changing because that's what I had to do. First, you have cordyceps. This is looking at what you've activated this year in 2024. We have K, Earth, 8 of Earth Guardians, which is 8 of Pentacles. You see the parallel with the eagle wings and then these wings. Eagles might be one of your spirit animals. We have the Emperor, sovereign cohesion, Kundalini creatrix, Ace of Light codes, the Tower, equalizing power. I really like how in this deck, the Tower is depicted as equalizing power. So it's kind of like you're really used to Tower energy. You're really used to crisis management. And I don't want it to sound like you're going to keep getting crisis, but it doesn't have to be, the type that breaks you. But you know how to deal with this idea of what seems like setbacks, to actually use that to your advantage. But if I were to just vibe into your overall energy of right now, you're being really rooted. So there's a part of you that's being really rooted, like a really essential core part of you that is taking form on the physical plane. But it's a process that is winding, like it's going in directions that are uncontrollable and unpredictable. But you have this way of dealing with these calibrative moments that keep taking you to a direction that you can't comprehend. But right now, what you feel like, we're going to move into your current energies, but you're kind of over it right now, basically. Like you're like, this is enough. I've had enough. But not in a way that is like you're being actually serious. I think you're incredibly mature enough to have a layer of yourself that is always observing all these different compartmentalization of your psyche. But like right now, I feel like you're pretty over it and tired, if I could say. Just you don't want to do anything right now. So if that's not your current energy, this might not be your pile. You might have just moved through that. I feel like you're also having a bit of a conundrum with timing of things, again, because of the way that the path keeps winding. So if you see like this Kundalini energy and this cordyceps, there's this idea of curvature, and that's how the timelines keep curving. I think that really you're spiritually mature enough to handle all of this. But if there's just one advice, is to ease up your mind around your expectations, basically, because your path is headed where it's going anyway, but there's an element of your mind, of your mental faculty, that is really jarred by what is going on, and it's like rough around the edges. It's not slowing you down, actually. It's not even blocking your path, because your path seems to be so strong and macrocosmic, but it just makes your experience less enjoyable if you keep holding on to that kind of mind. Let me try to zoom out a little bit there. Okay. We have 7 of light codes. I think light codes is wands. I find it very confusing when the tarot card authors change the elements, and it's just very confusing. 8 of portals. Portals is cups. But I find it interesting. Look at that. Another winding road. Another winding path. Cycles and cycles and cycles. What's interesting about this 8 of cups is that even though 8 of cups is usually around leaving something behind, well, it's not usually around. It's always around leaving something behind. Leaving behind maybe a paradigm, leaving behind a way of being, leaving behind something that doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe it's relationships, situations, circumstances, mental patterns, maybe even expectations, maybe even, or an entire way of being. It could be that you're leaving an entire city or a country. It could be leaving something behind on so many different ways. It could just even be energetic, without any physical, tangible proof. but it is depicted in a way that it's rooted and grounding. So even if you're leaving something behind and moving on, you're more grounded. So this kind of reminds me of how I talk about sometimes for certain configuration of star seeds, so to speak, like staying in one place is not necessarily the most grounding thing, because stability and structure and kind of like this solidity is actually an illusion. Even if something feels like it's always the same, or maybe somebody lives in a place that is always the same, but the nature of the energy is constantly fluctuating. So even if you say stay in one place for a duration of a long time, and you have this illusion that that place is always the same, it's not. It's constantly shifting. The grids are shifting, the energies are shifting. So, one of my favorite teachers tell me that stability is an illusion and stillness is an illusion. This stillness that people crave, because everybody craves like some level of permanent arrival, some sort of a permanent conclusion. And that's what we crave all our lives, like to just arrive somewhere other than here. And that's just the program that we have as a species, is that we need to get somewhere else. So no matter how far you progress down your path, there's always going to be a part of your psyche that feels like, okay, if only I achieve that next thing, if only I have security in this aspect, then I'll feel fulfilled, completely fulfilled. But that stability or fulfillment, it can reflect an internal state that already exists, but it's the very idea of a fixed state is illusory. So anyway, I feel like you're getting more in touch with that type of truth, higher level truth, and you're becoming a lot more flexible and fluid in your path. It's like a lot of these rigid ideas of how you think your path should be, and a lot of this may have been carried from before. But it's becoming more flexible, and you get new insights, new calibrations around your path and all the sensory perception around your path. And if you happen to be quite psychic, which a lot of my channel audience is also psychic, and they're drawn to this type of material that is not very common. I know there's a lot of like psychic readings, pick a cards, but the people who are drawn to my work, they tend to be quite in tune on a higher level. There's this whole paradox of being an oracle. People think it's just all cool, like, oh, if you're psychic, like everything is easier to understand. You can predict things easier. That's not true. It actually becomes more complex. It's like there's more equations to the algebra. And sometimes it's so confusing because you can actually feel like every timeline, even if it's in the future, it's like as if it is happening now to the degree that they are probable. And it's like if you have a melange of more sensory inputs than if you didn't have this type of sensitivity. And so, it's really about finding the right discernment on how much you allow yourself to pay attention to those data input and use it in a way that is in alignment for your highest efficiency, which sometimes means that you still have to put aside all of the input that you are receiving and focus on what really matters in the moment. And for me, that's usually not even cognitive. So You just have to learn to really like flow through all of the sensory input, all of the psychic sensory input, all of the psychic data, and let it flow just as much as if you didn't have it, you would let your emotions and your thoughts just kind of flow through your system. But you just have more input, more processing to let go of. Okay, we have 6 of activation, this is what, 6 of swords, 9 of pentacles. So it looks like you really have cultivated and activated through a really powerful sense of sovereignty, whether that is financial. There's an element of you having achieved internal stability around your financial success. If you are part of alchemical prosperity, you know this is true. It's really coming into less of a codependent dynamic with your streams of income and genuinely realizing the value of prosperity and the true metrics of energy, which first and foremost actually is life force. Life force energy is a higher level of currency that people often overlook. But that's really fundamentally your life force energy and your spiritual connection and your ability to actually listen and adapt and put it into action when it needs to be put into action. That's practical currency. So it's really around trusting that's fundamentally enough to take you through your path. And it looks like you've activated through that. Now let's look at your oracles. We have Ascension, Unraveling, Acts of Courage, Miracle. So it looks like you had to take a lot of actions and decisions that took so much courage. Maybe you had to push your comfort zones to another new level. And rising up to the challenge. But I feel like you're at a very tender space. You've had to open up so much. You had to open up so much to drop resistance. I feel like that was one of the most important lessons, is like how to actually drop resistance to what is occurring without wanting or needing to control it. And I feel like you're currently processing a level of opening up that you've done, like a level of vulnerability and the level of activations that came through you softening up and dropping resistance and just allowing life to move through you. And you have yet to see how that is going to materialize, because you're still at the process of like really letting that settle. Like, it's like you've opened up. So if you just see like opening up, and you've had to just drop your defenses. And even though there's this idea of courage and rising to the challenge, sometimes that looks like actually softening up instead of armoring up. People have this idea like warriors, they armor up and they have to, be guarded and offensive or defensive or, aggressive. But sometimes the courage, and for you especially, it looks like just dropping the defenses, dropping the resistance, and allowing whatever wants to move through you to move through you, and just trusting life to be on your side. Because usually when people are guarded and they want to protect themselves, they have an armor. They're having a hard time believing that the environment or the universe or the agenda of the greater reality might be against your agenda or like your highest good. And it's really easy to think that, because look at this world we are in right now. It's absolutely nuts. But when you can really trust yourself and when you truly drop into the knowing of the highest organizing principles of reality. It's like you just let it in and you're still kind of in that vulnerable open space where the activations are still moving through you. And that's also why I think you're a bit tired. Like, you remember when I said in the beginning, like you just seem like you're over it, but it's because you've like really de-armored some of your deepest armors. Like, you've really released a lot of your resistance, and that was exhausting because now you're recalibrating from all the patterns of armoring up and holding the defenses and holding the resistance. And now that you've let it go, you're feeling the after effects of what it was like to hold that energetically for so long. You know how, like, say, if you hold the same position with your body for way too long and you don't move and you just like fix it there, say like you have to raise your hand up for a really long time, or I don't know if some of you get tattoos, but you have to stay in the same position for a really long time. And after you finally get out of that position, you just feel that like the wave of like the pins and needles, and it just like that was so much. And now that you've energetically dropped your defenses, it's like, oh my F, like that was crazy. And you're not even sure where the energetic pain is coming from right now. You're like, where is this coming from? Well, it's because you actually dropped your defenses and now you're feeling the after effects of holding that much resistance for so long. And I feel like you're still going through that process of like really trusting that it's okay to drop your defenses. And for those who are like actually really advanced in consciousness evolution, you may know the power of like genuinely resting in a state of non-conceptual mind. And if you really think about the way that our mind operates, the linear mind, the cognitive mind, it's always on guard. It's always on defenses. Usually, like it's just not like sometimes it's just resisting. It's resisting the natural flow of things. And when you start to tune into the non-conceptual mind, which you could say is like a spectrum of enlightenment, but it's not something that just like stays there. It's something you have to continually tune into, you know? So it's not a fixed state. Enlightenment is not a fixed state. Obviously, it changes the nature of your default mind. But there's, again, this idea of a fixed state is illusory. But yeah, once you start operating from like this non-cognitive, non-conceptual mind, it does feel like you've dropped your defenses, and sometimes it feels unsafe. Like, is this really safe to operate in this way? Like, is this really okay? So that could also be some of you where you're finding pockets of peace of mind that genuinely is peaceful, at ease with no matter what the circumstances are. Obviously, it will range in the spectrum, but essentially, genuinely, you get quite comfortable with how everything's are. And there's a part of you that's thinking, is that really okay to live from that space, from that much peace, from that much sovereignty? And the answer is yes, you're going to figure it out. We have rebirth and then angel protection. So you are going through, so basically you're going through a rebirth and you're not done. Shout out to the patrons who have to see this every week, this rebirth energy. You're not done. Like, you've kickstarted this process of rebirth this year. I would even say it was like, if I'm scanning through the timelines, it may have been Q2, Q3 of the 2024. That's so funny. That's about when it seems this has taken place. This process of really opening up, this process of really releasing resistance, this process of unraveling. But you're not done, and it's still going on. But this process, it's completely protected. Like, this is divinely protected. If you're thinking, okay, what if something happens in the process and something goes wrong? just like things can go wrong. But this process of rebirth, this process of alchemy is protected to its full completion. It's going to be protected. You're going to feel like in the next coming months, a new version of yourself arise from all of this. And it's inevitable because of the level of de-armoring. And interestingly, you've let go of the layers that you felt made up a large part of your identity. But as soon as you let those go, you've uncovered the truest identity, of yourself. Okay, now these cards are your current energies. You have Stag Spirit, take the lead. There's a lot of cards around taking the lead, sovereignty, being a leader keeps coming up. So right now you're really learning to take the lead, not wait around for people's permission, not wait around for people's validation, but realizing that you're genuinely the lead. And this doesn't come from an egoic space, but this doesn't come from an egoic space, but this comes from a genuine understanding of sovereignty and a genuine understanding of the nature of consciousness, a genuine understanding of the nature of reality. You are your own leader, period. And a lot of people have a really difficult time digesting that on an energetic level. Yeah, mentally, they get it. Like, yes, I'm sovereign. I get to choose. Not from a level of ego, but from a level of multi-dimensional cohesion. When you choose from a multi-dimensional level of cohesion, it doesn't necessarily look like you get everything you want from an egoic level, but there's a synthesis of all the different multiple levels of yourself. And that choice looks like a very strange balance between free will and destiny. There's a weird liminal line between the two, and that essentially is your sovereignty. Okay. We have Elephant Spirit, learn from the past. Porcupine Spirit, time for a beginner's mind. So you're learning from the past, but yet you're having a beginner's mind. So this rebirth, it's genuinely occurring. I feel like for you, next year of 2025 is going to be a completely fresh book. Not even a chapter, it's like a new book. The energetic frequencies of the next year is, what Pokemon, I don't know if you know or like watch Pokemon. If you didn't watch the original Pokemon, I'm sad because it's literally the best. The original series, not like the weird ones that come out these days. But essentially, the Pokemons, they go through stages of evolution. And it's not like perpetual. There's a final form of evolution for each of the Pokemon species. But for example, Pikachu turns into Raichu at some point. There's a very clear, distinct level of evolution. Even though the Pokemon evolves perpetually, learns new skills, new capacities, new abilities, and everything. But at a certain point where it hits a critical mass, it evolves into a new form that has completely new parameters for the Pokemon. Not just like a more enhanced, improved version of the previous self, but it's a completely new parameter. And that's what I feel like you're becoming. Like you're actually evolving parameters. That's like the foundational set. That's like the foundational set of limitations within infinity that defines the rest of the code. And that's what you're going through. And so it's important that you take the lead and that you learn from the past, but don't hold on to anything. Learn from the past, but don't hold on to anything. Don't hold on to anything that has happened. Let go of how everything has ever gone for you statistically. So like what's important for you to do at this moment is integrate the lessons that you've learned, but let go of the statistics. Does that make sense to you? Imagine you like had 10 different friends and they all betrayed you and you had to learn the art of discernment. It's telling you, learn the art of discernment, but release the statistics of, oh, I had 10 friends and it went like this. Or if it was like you starting 5 different businesses and you had to learn all these lessons about running a business, take the lesson, but don't hold on to the statistics of I ran 5 businesses and it went like this, so it should likely go like that if I do this. Like predictability, it doesn't apply to this new level because you have new parameters. Basically, you have new functions, you have new belief systems that is going to be in the background of your existence as an incarnate identity. We have harmony, music, harmony, cave, sanctuary. You had 2 cave cards, so it looks like you might be in a cave at the moment. You might be feeling like you're in a cave. You might be feeling extra solitary, or you might feel like you're coming out of a cave soon. It's like you've been in a cave, you've been in a shell, fog veiled, and it looks like you're confused about where things are going next. So I definitely sense this level of, well, it's that vulnerability of like you opened up and you are letting things in, and it's almost overwhelming the level of energy and information data that is streaming through from you opening up, letting down your defenses and letting life move through you. And so you're at a place where you can't comprehend anything that is going on. You can't put a rational framework on what is happening at all. So don't try to make sense of what is going on, because right now it's like this. If you have a ceremony with plant medicines, what goes on during the ceremonies, people try to comprehend and they put a narrative to what is going on, but on a higher level, there's so much more going on than what you think is going on. It's just plasmic calibrations. And that's kind of like what is happening now. You could try to explain what you think is happening, but it's literally just plasmic calibrations. And so that's why you can't really see where it's going, because there's so much going on. It's like rainbow supernova activation calibration. There's no explanation. Rebirth, another rebirth card. Yeah. I'm sorry, it must feel so jarring right now. Like the rooster that continues to cry somewhere around here. And I just wanted to stop crying because I don't want you guys to hear that in the background, but I can't really do anything about that. Release, another card around release. You literally just had another card around release. Unfoldment. You had another card. OMFG. Should I bring up the other cards and show you literally the same keywords are coming up? Just because like the level of synchronicity, this is not explainable either, but clearly that's happening. Unraveling, unfoldment. I mean, it's the release card was actually okay. The rebirth. This is literally the same words. Stag spirit, emperor, same. Leaving behind, leaving something behind. Release. Roots. Ugh. Okay. We have power, lightning, and emergence. Unfoldment, unraveling, emerge. There's something coming out of you that is so beyond your comprehension, version of yourself that you've never encountered before, and the level of power that comes with this version of yourself. There's a lot of power that you haven't been used to wielding. It's a level of metaphysical power, and it's a level of sovereignty. It's a level of like truly knowing self, like truly knowing self. And from that place, whatever comes up is untouchable. But it's like the reason why you're able to access this level of power is because you dropped your defenses. You decided to trust life, and you dropped your guards, and you decided to drop your resistance to everything that is happening. And as such, you've basically recruited the universe to be your ally, because you stop holding all this mistrust and resistance. And that comes with like just trusting whatever arises, even if it's not a pleasant experience in the temporary timeline. It all like kind of really adds up to the greater whole. So you've genuinely unlocked this new level of cohesion, this new level of cohesion and harmony with all there is. And it's overwhelming right now because you're getting used to what that feels like to operate from that level. It is not like anything else that you've experienced before. And it's just stabilizing. And there's moments where it feels like you're going magnitudes backwards instead of forwards. But there's no such thing as backwards or forwards. There's only upwards. Upwards. There's only progress at this stage of harmony, at this stage of alignment. If you're misaligned, of course, you could go backwards. But at this level of alignment, there is no backwards, even if it looks like it's going backwards. Okay, so that's what's going on with you currently. You're confused, but it's because you're now wielding a level of power that you have never been used to wielding to that degree. That's also life force. That's also life force, and that's also currency. Okay, well, these roosters. Now we're going to look at your future timelines, near future. And I know people say, just pay attention to what's happening now. Don't look at the future. But like, the future is right now. So we have Arcturian light codes, third eye activation, Lemurian seed codes, Orion activation, a lot of activations. Solar light upgrade. Memories of Atlantis. Do you see you have Atlantis Lemurian, Arcturus Orion? It's just a lot going on right now. You need a rest. Ripple effect, part of something bigger, details are taken care of. So I feel like you're kind of like a little bit stressed about how are you going to manage all of the details of whatever is going to occur. But I feel like, listen to me, this level of power and whatever you've unlocked and this new level of operating system that you are beginning to stabilize and acclimate to, this level of operation, it doesn't require micromanagement. When you are operating at this level of cohesion with the greater forces in reality, the details are taken care of. You really don't need to worry. It's like you've hired a team. That's basically what is going on. When you align to this level of harmonic trust with all there is, details are taken care of. You don't need to worry. You don't need to make things happen the way that you think things should happen. You don't need to plan or strategize. It's like you have a bunch of assistants doing it for you energetically. So it's like you got a promotion in life. You used to do all these nitty-gritty things like an assistant would to your life, to your own life. But it's like you step up to a promotion where you're the leader now and you get to outsource all these details to the universe and these little forces of the universe. And what it took for you was actually really to trust that. And what it took for you to was actually figure out the configuration of what it takes to actually energetically surrender and drop resistance to all there is, which is not something easy. So that was difficult, but you did it. And so now you get to just see what that does for you. You don't have to fucking worry. I feel like you're just like worried. And I understand life is nuts, but you're good. Beneath the surface, what is really driving? Sorry, you cannot see the text. You're part of something bigger, and you're gonna see that. You're part of a, like, you're realizing the severity of the comedy of the smaller self, like the ego, and you're starting to like rise to a level where you could actually like see. You're starting to rise to a level where you can actually see all the intricate details of how it operates as a pattern. And so it's actually kind of funny. But you're resonating with the bigger picture of the bigger pattern, of the larger pattern of a higher intelligence. And then you're figuring out and finding out what really truly drives you. Your core true motivations. And sometimes that gets masked, it gets distracted if you don't pay attention to what generally truly drives you. But as soon as you hit that alignment with your truest drives, and of course, like, we can talk about this from multiple different perspectives and levels. Like, when you talk about this from a higher, like the highest level of consciousness, there's no reason that anything exists. There's no purpose for anything. But once you just start to integrate the art of individuation, which is the whole point of incarnation, and individuation that is in harmonic alignment with the whole at the same time, which is actually even more advanced than just being one, is to actually integrate individuation as part of the one. Once you start to operate from that level, you start to see like the intricate details of the life force that is moving through your current experience. And you need to really take a good look at what drives you. There's something, and you could call this a purpose, or you could call this like a theme. You know, usually generally people's mission, they operate as blueprints, and they have themes, and people have different architecture to how their missions are. And so some people have a more open, fluid path. Some people have a really specific crystalline form. I mean, it really depends, and not one is ever better than another. They all come with their own pros and cons. But really, it's like really hitting the main stream, the main archetype of what drives you. So it's like something that you can just completely get lost in. And it sparks this life force when you tap into this stream or purpose. The thing with a lot of people, though, is that they have a feeling like they don't deserve to work on something, or that they don't deserve to actually pursue the most important thing for them. And it's bizarre why people think that, but we've just been conditioned to feel like we're supposed to do things that don't matter the most, which is ridiculous. But if you actually like, it might sound weird, but if you actually like really process what I'm saying, it makes sense. Like, we all feel like we shouldn't do what is the most important for us because there's something else that is more important. And literally, people have this to a certain degree. And part of it comes from the illusion of the dichotomy of time and time perception. To actually be able to have conducive time perception around time is very challenging. We have cognitive bias that we all have cognitive bias around time that completely distorts our experience of time. That's what we all have right now. And so because of the distortion around time perception, it's very easy to misperceive that if there was a time to pursue what is the most important to you, it has to be now. Like basically, if I were to boil that down and reduce it. We have the pink dolphin, celebration, fun, open heart, unbridled joy. So even through all of this in your near future, I feel like you're finally opening up to this fun, joy, celebration energy. There's something that you're going to be celebrating. Some beautiful heart's wish is coming true. Of course, when you tap into like what really matters to you most, your life starts to unfold in that way where your life fruitions in ways that is most important to you. We have the sirens, use your voice, expansion, freedom. So there's a huge level of expansion energy. Expansion in every area. It doesn't just come from one aspect, but there's expansion in every area of your life. Maybe some of the ways that have been super stagnant, it was just, you had to energetically just get into this level of sovereignty, this level of de-armoring, this level of trust, surrender. And surrender sounds so easy, but for somebody to go from an armored for somebody to go from an armed up stage to like actual surrender and trust, that was a lot of work, and you did it. And so you're going to be unlocking this like stream of life force and this stream of blessings in ways that are most fulfilling for you. Then lastly, we have inner power. Look at that, the sovereignty, unbridled confidence, claiming your place. You claim your place. And you're finally stepping into the place where what anyone thinks or say doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like somebody can just come and tell you things that would have once dampened your confidence or your knowing. But now you've uncovered a place where you just don't care because you really know your worth, your value, your sovereignty, your power. You really genuinely understand the meaning of internal divinity. Like there's nothing that could happen in any situation for you to ever doubt the divinity within you. Like there's no person or thing or statement that could change your mind about that. Like it's you just know who you are. And when I say you know who you are, I mean not just from like this surface level, but you know who you are at your core. And once you get to actually know who you are at your core, you can't possibly unknow that. And then you can't possibly live without this level of self-love and self-worth, because genuine self-love and self-worth are natural byproducts of knowing who you truly are at your essence. Once you actually truly know who you are at your essence, it's not possible to not love yourself. It's not possible to feel unworthy, no matter what happened. So it's just doesn't matter anymore. Criticism, internal or external, it just doesn't faze you anymore. Congratulations. This is your near future. Lastly, your integration points. What do you have to integrate? I am blessed. You are blessed. Jeez. I see perfection in everything. This is completely in alignment with what we just spoke about, that on a fleeting perspective of how life unfolds, with like a limited perspective, you can find flaws and criticism about basically anything and everything. But once you start to rise up to that level of perspective where you see the greater picture, where you see the higher pattern, you start to see the perfection in everything. And this is why you drop your guards, and this is why you drop your defenses, because you understand the higher picture. And this isn't something that you can force yourself to understand, but you genuinely know the higher picture. So you've done a lot of great work that is challenging, but you did it. That was your whole 2024. So we have boundaries. I love boundaries. Boundaries are some of the most incredible things to exist in life. There's a fine balance of being completely open and surrendered to everything, yet still having your boundaries. So it is paradoxical to say I'm completely open and surrendered, but you still have your boundaries, because boundaries is different from armor. Boundaries are flexible. They are energetic boundaries. The proper multidimensional energetic boundaries are encrypted. So it like kind of adapts to what it's interfacing with. This is what allows you to drop your armor, because you have these flexible, advanced boundaries. So even though you're completely open to the universe, for example, you don't drop your boundaries around who you know yourself to be, the truth of your essence, the truth of reality, the truth of divinity. So if anything comes into your field that is not in alignment with that, it's just going to bounce off. Next cards, we have weather the storms, let it change you, embrace the unexpected. Wait, this is the lesson. So, you know, it definitely looks like you're going through what seems to be a storm right now still. And your integration point is to just let it change you. And instead of focusing on what is happening and what the outcome is going to be, instead of focusing on the narrative of the change, focus on the person that it's shaping you to be. Who are you becoming? And I feel like the outcome right now is unseen, and it's not possible to predict what's going to happen. So if there's a part of you that is wanting to know what is going to happen after this, that's like not a priority right now, because what the universe is concerned about, not concerned, but like the priority of your universe, of the environment and your progression, is not what the next outcome is going to be, but it's what it's shaping you to be, the person that you are becoming. And when I say person, I don't mean it as an identity, but the configuration, that evolution, the level of consciousness that you're beginning to operate from. Are you able to stabilize that? Because all of these different pieces is actually shaping and structuring the way you operate with your mind, with your body, with your consciousness. And so part of it is just allowing the calibrations to come through and change you, let it transform you. And you have these boundaries, like you have the boundaries wherein you know yourself and you know your values and you know yourself on a higher level. And so when you have this wisdom and when you have this knowing and embodiment, whatever happens, you have these boundaries that it's not going to change you, that is anything less than who you truly are. Whatever is occurring, it's not going to turn you into something that is not more authentically yourself. If there's any part of you that is feeling, what am I going to become after this? Would it maybe not be more true to who you are? But this is going to take you into be more of who you really are, which you can't predict what it's going to be, but it's going to be more who you truly authentically are. We have the elder, teacher, wise one experience. The holy mountain, soul calling, sacred journey, pilgrimage. The holy mountain, soul calling, sacred journey, pilgrimage. Singing stones, transmit your vibration, use your voice. So it looks like all of this, you're being led to share it in some way, express it in some way. For some of you, you're teaching it in some way, maybe teaching by example. For some of you actually are teachers or healers or guides. You're somehow allowing this experience to come to a point where you could teach what you're learning right now through this process and through this process of calibration. And the coolest thing about genuine spiritual activators, not the false ones, not the fake people, but genuine, true spiritual activators, is that based on the path that they've walked, based on the lessons that they've learned and they've embodied, it creates a very crystalline transmission of whatever you teach or transmit or be of service with. It has that kind of undertone or overlay of all of the lessons that you've embodied. And so allowing yourself to really go through this process of opening up, and it's almost reminding me of if you're in a cocoon, if there's a cocoon and there's a butterfly emerging out of that, that literally feels like this current process. And I think that when there's a cocoon, like the insides of it is like fluid at some point. I know that sounds not like it's like an uncomfortable thing to visualize, but right now it feels like you're just moving through this fluid stage just before you open up and break into this butterfly. And you're just having to trust the process. We have hidden treasure. You're on the right track. Gift revealed. So if you see like all these gestures of openness, then we have releasing of the past, emerging, transforming, energies transmuted. You're revealing. First of all, you're revealing a part of yourself that is so true to you, that is so blatantly you, but you're just coming to let that out. So there's gifts and abilities that you have to be of service and to be the most authentic version of yourself that you're uncovering now. And it's so effortless and it's so easy and it's so easy for you that you feel like it's not valuable because it's so effortless for you. It's almost like because something comes so effortlessly and easy for you, you don't feel like that's going to be of much value because it's so easy. But what you haven't realized is that it's easy for you, it's effortless for you because it's like your genuine, true soul blueprint. But there are others who could benefit so much from what you can effortlessly do. So just imagine what comes the most natural to you. If you could just say, this is a thought experiment, get paid to do whatever you enjoy the most. And if there was no possibility that it could fail, what would that be? And just imagine what you would choose. Like genuinely just think about if you could get paid to do anything in the world and you didn't fail and it wasn't going to fail, what would you choose as that? And chances are somehow it's going to have something to do with what you were meant to do. If you could just not have to worry about what you think you should do, where your path should go, or how you're going to become successful, and if you were just fully supported to pursue education and training in anything that you could possibly want without thinking of the utility or the outcome, what would you choose? And most likely, that's going to be part of your soul's truest calling, that it's going to integrate into how you step into your legacy, basically, how you step into the higher pattern. And there's an underlying theme that puts together all of your interests. Like there's all the different things that you like to do, even if you don't see a connection between those things, all of your interests, there's an underlying sort of frequency that ties it together. And that is part of your soul's frequency. Like really there's some core themes that you're meant to express and embody. Sometimes it can't be really verbalized even, But that's really part of what you're here to do. Whatever interests you, whatever motivates you, whatever drives you, fuels you, makes you feel passionate, that's part of your path. And the reason why you feel fueled by that is because it's part of your path. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt that something is too good to be your path, because there's a reason why it drives you the way that it does. And when you find your true soul's code, calling of a mission, the mission code, it will effortlessly drive you. You won't be able to, eventually you won't be able to stop it from happening, because that's just going to happen. So just surrender to that and let it change you. Right now, you're going through a process where you're being transformed to become who you were always meant to be. And whatever resistance that you have right now, or whatever you feel like, whatever resistance that you may be experiencing, or whatever you feel like is stagnant, even the stagnancy, even the pressure, even all of these other factors of your current experience and what you're moving through right now is exactly the culmination of what is shaping you to become exactly that person you're always meant to be at this point, at this pivotal point of evolutionary history. Okay, the last card here is, don't seek to grasp Dhamma with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still. Don't seek to grasp Dhamma with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still. While the endless inner mind chatters are in the way, nothing will be able to cut through the noise echoing inside your head. So this is around dropping your cognitive mind, which I think is exactly what we were discussing before. Operating from a non-conceptual mind. Operating from a mind that is not continually in, operating from a level of mind that is not continually in conflict mode. There's a level of the mind that is always in conflict mode. That's just the way that it is. That's like the lower levels of the mind. Right now, you're learning to operate from a higher level and wondering if that's okay to live there. I'm going to repeat this once again because it's the key idea that is coming all the way back here. What if I told you that you could get paid for living in that space of mind? Because it is actually of so much service to the world. And you don't have to figure out how that's going to translate into social currency, but it will. What if I told you that? Just play around with that for a bit. Because what I can tell you is that when you operate from that level of mind, you'll naturally witness your human reality unfold in a way, like you'll literally just observe yourself making all the aligned decisions, taking all the aligned paths, creating all the aligned connections, and it'll just flow. But the key core of that is not because of something that you did, but because of the level of the mind that you chose to operate on. That, if you just took that last bit that I shared with you and really process it, you'll be good for the rest of your life. But you have to truly process that. Okay, sending lots of love. If you enjoy my transmissions, please check out my website, or you could be part of the Patreon tribe, where I share exclusive activations and transmissions every single month. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Hello, friends who chose pile number 3. This is going to be your reading. Let's get into it. So the first set of cards is going to be what you've activated in 2024. What have you activated and what have you learned? Change. So things are changing, obvi. But at the same time, I want to point out the obvious union thing going on here. So you may have met some sort of a counterpart energy. And it doesn't have to take on any other label than that, because it gets really convoluted as soon as you start to put all these labels on a union energy. What matters is the effect that it has on the purity of your being, the initiation that you're stepping into becoming more of yourself. That's what matters more than what the relationship is. And to the degree that you become the truest version of yourself, I think is more important to consider. So I guess when it comes to some sort of a union, is this turning into more of yourself, more of your true self? Then we have initiation, as soon as we spoke about an initiation. So whatever is going on right now, you're definitely uncomfortable. You feel bound by a situation, perhaps by fate or a bunch of agreements. This is literally how it feels to be calibrated by fate. Actually, this is quite calm. For me, being calibrated by fate that I cannot escape, it feels like genuinely like I'm fish out of water. You know how they kind of have this visceral response to being out of the water? That's what fate feels like sometimes. It's uncomfortable. Something is changing you, making you really uncomfortable, but it's asking you to look at it from a different perspective. It's asking you to change the way you're narrating it, and it's asking you to take a deeper look at why you're responding in the way that you're responding, asking you if you are able to drop the resistance and just chill out and enjoy the suspension. You're basically being upgraded with a new way of perceiving things. And for some of you, it's like a whole new way of operating. Tradition, you're being initiated by a tradition. Sorry, it's just so funny. Oh my God. So it could be some sort of a tradition. It could be something with ancestral work as well. Or it could be like a lineage. The lineages are so powerful. They're just transmissions of this ever unfolding archetypal energies. And they shift over time. And so they do carry some level of distortion. All lineages do carry some level of distortion. So as you're receiving this, I feel like perhaps some of it is around you don't want to be programmed by whatever it is going on. There's a part of you that's probably your mind is resisting. I don't want to be programmed in that way, particularly. And so what you can then start to think about is like, well, how can you alter the situation or the conditions or even your own perspective or even your own belief systems so that it does align with all levels of yourself? But let's see. I'm going to continue on. Oh, this was what happened in 2024. This literally happened. Sorry, sometimes I start reading and I forget what the spread was about. This is actually what happened to you this whole year. We have food meditation, which is I can. We have passion. Accountability. Confirmation. Oh, there's one more card. Create. There's something that you're responsible for creating. This starts to feel uncanny when a spread is starting to speak to me. Like, well, okay. I mean, speak to me like when it starts to really apply to myself and I'm like, I'm going to move myself out of the way and just transmit the message. But it seems to be applying to me. You're responsible, some sort of a creation that you are fated to create. And this is intergalactic. It's from your soul lineage. It's from your galactic lineage. And you might be thinking like whatever it is that you feel like you have to create, or that's some sort of a mission or assignment that you have and that you're dealing with, sometimes it could really feel uncomfortable. And I can say that from experience too. If you have a distinct soul mission, especially if you have one that is so specific, the experience of accepting that could be a little bit disconcerting sometimes, because it doesn't feel like there's much flexibility. But what you'll realize when you stop having resistance over what is occurring is that this is actually precisely what would fulfill you in the long term. So don't look at it from like right now. Don't look at it from like, the first beginning stages, but just look at the whole of the frequency of how this gets to unfold, and tune into the entirety of the trajectory instead of like what it feels for you right now, especially when you're an oracle. And when I say oracle, it's people who have foresight, and not just foresight, but also into like, just all directions of time, just a timeline sensitivity through networks of time. Um, and you could actually feel it. It's not like you think about it, but you just have an interface for it, like physically, usually, or mentally, or emotionally, whatever. It depends on the person, truly. But really, essentially, when you start to interact with something that opens up in your life, it can start to feel really jarring. Jarring is the word. Whether you like start to get into a relationship, or whether you get into a dynamic situation, circumstance, soul agreements, fate, you can feel the entirety of the fractal as it begins, because you just sense into the shifts in the timelines that is occurring right as you are stepping into that invitation, or sometimes it's just fate. And then it can feel so challenging, but then you're going to begin to stabilize it, and then it's not going to be as challenging anymore after that. So if it feels way too intense now, don't worry about it. You will get used to it, and you'll learn to adjust it as you go. And it's not like everything is fixed. You get to choose to adjust it as you go. We have no false speech. This speaks about really being honest with yourself and other people, being upfront about really who you are. And that doesn't mean that you go and like tell people who you are, but just generally show up authentically how you would to any situation. Just be honest with yourself as well. And this might even include that you may be resisting whatever it is happening, but deep inside, you know that you actually like it like this too, on some level. So be honest. And sometimes, like the inner conflict, it is just. One of my mentors tell me that anxiety is physiologically exactly the same as excitement. And but actually, deeper than that, he tells me that anxiety is not a valid emotion, as in like it is a cover up for another emotion that you're not willing to feel or suppressing, and that manifests as anxiety. I mean, like I ask him about every single emotion, so it's really cool what he says about each of them, because he's very wise. But basically, anxiety is not a real emotion, and it's like masking another emotion that you are not open to feel. So once you start to bring awareness to what that is, you'll be able to get out of that kind of fish out of water mode. You're overflowing with life force. This kind of reminds me of what we just talked about with anxiety. I think that it's a good sign if something is feeling like overwhelming. You could view it as something is sparking your life force to that degree. And that's always a good sign. I mean, obviously, you navigate it wisely with your own intuition. But I think if something feels overwhelming, there's a lot of life force that's being activated. And once you can circulate your life force, and you know how to circulate your life force, you could deal with this better. So whatever change this is seems to have kind of been shocking you this whole year. My light is shining bright, and so when this card comes up, it tells me that whatever it is that you are initiated with, whatever it is that is changing your life, shaping your life, whatever circumstance, situation, relationship, whatever. It's guiding you towards a direction where you're going to become the most authentic version you've ever been. And as such, it's going to push you in more visibility. And when I say visibility, it doesn't mean that you have to be like seen by a lot of people, unless that's actually part of your dharma, which some people do have that. But otherwise, it could even just be that you have so much energetic influence and impact around the field. So when you're like the truest version of yourself, you naturally have more influence over the field, even the collective field, not just in your personal field, but like in the entire collective field. So you're going to step into this like massive visibility. And especially, even if it's not humans, especially with like interdimensional beings, entities. And that could either, depending on how you navigate through this and the boundaries that you have, you could also align with more people that are on your bandwidth, because you're just like this beacon of authentic light, and it just naturally attracts all that is in harmonious alignment with whatever that you are radiating. So it's like when you're emanating the frequency of beauty, you start to just attract beautiful things in your life. Like you literally become surrounded by beauty. When you are abundant and you're genuinely radiating that abundance, like you just become surrounded by abundance, with love, with purpose, with service, whatever it is. We have my body is in perfect health. So it looks like you are, really recovering your authenticity with your physical vessel as well. Your physical body is becoming more in tune with your natural circuitry. And what helps with this the most is a variety of using plants, whether that's Ayurvedic, whether that's traditional Chinese medicine, or whether that's Amazonian, whichever lineage that speaks to you. Actually, all of them are otherworldly. Like, I have basically delved into the plant realms of India, which is Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and Amazonian to some degrees, like not like extensively, but they've all so far had like really eye-opening effects. So I would suggest that. And then the last card you have is I Am, which is the master card of this whole deck. So there's a part of you that has been genuinely ascending in your level of consciousness. And I feel like your throat is going through somewhat of a calibration. It's like your expressions. And this, I mean, obviously this came up, but I just feel like you're beginning to open up to a level of communication that you haven't done before. It's either like you get into certain dynamics with other people that you are more transparent than you've ever been before, even though probably you've been transparent all your life. And when I say transparent, just like truly, just genuinely expressing what you feel and how you feel. And even just the work that you do, work that you put out, or the service that you put out, it just is starting to become more authentic. And it doesn't mean that anything has to change on a surface level, but it's just the frequency that it is emitting is starting to up level. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the next energies, which is looking at your current energy. So this was all of your 2024, and some of you have really been tapping into non-dual consciousness, which if you know the significance of that, because that was the last card. Okay, sorry. Okay, we have consuming, which I find is interesting. This is your current energy. And if you remember in the previous spread, you had food meditation. So there's some really drastic calibration around what it is that you're consuming, and especially food. Because the food meditation, Yeah, it could be the plants too, but like the plant medicines. I'm not just talking about psychoactive substances at all. I'm talking about like all plants. Consuming gratitude. Well, fear. Balancing what? That is so intense. Shadow work. Fear and gratitude. It's almost like opposite ends of the spectrum. This is such a cliche message, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like, be very mindful of what you consume, whether it is based on gratitude or fear. And this actually just makes me feel like it's more mental. The thoughts inside your head, monitor the thought patterns inside your head. And that requires a high level of observation. But whenever you find yourself in some sort of a situation where it feels out of balance, because that's a really sure signal. When something just feels out of balance for you, it's a pretty good alarm for you to wake up and notice what's going on, and then just monitor the thought system that is operating. Because right now I feel like you're in a really fertile period of time where whatever you deplug from will deplug, and whatever you feed will amplify to a degree that is exponential. So right now, you can be a little bit more mindful over what you are consuming, even with the food. Literally everything that is surrounding you and everything that you are running through, it's like you're in this transition period. And I think I spoke about this maybe in the pile one, where there's a liminal space where it's the most fertile to program anything. So let's see, generations, ancestors. You keep getting this thing about ancestors. Like, what is up with you and the ancestors? This was around the tradition. Ancestors. Like, what is up with the ancestors? New moon promise. Shaman. Ancient healing wisdom. Damn. Why is that coming out with the tradition card and the ancestors generations? Oh no. I'm sorry. It's just starting to feel too personal. Oh my gosh. I don't even ever think I was acting like this in any reading. We have iceberg submerged. Oh, DNA. Have you ever seen these two cards like this together? Karma, generations, tradition, submerged. So you're like, currently, you are going through some deep shadow work, but I feel like you're kind of chill through it. I mean, based on what I saw here with the other energies, where you have this chilly card where you are suspended, but you're just kind of chilling. You're purging a lot, and that process doesn't have to be so difficult. People think that a difficult purge is productive, but in my experience, it depends on what level of consciousness that you choose to vibrate in. When you start to vibrate in like what I would call network consciousness, then you get to just kind of call in the higher levels of the higher faculties of your mind that knows exactly how to dissipate through those energies. But here, let me just take a look at what kind of karma, and you're gonna breach the karma and the generation. So it's like you're breaking through these generational patterns. Good luck. Oh my god, this is the best card. This is one of the best cards of all decks. Not just in this deck, but all decks. Auspicious wishes granted, blessings. So all of this muck that you're currently moving through, and that you don't even see this coming though. Like currently you don't even see this level of light portal opening up as you are moving through this muck and this suspension and this generational karmic. It almost feels like curses. I'm sorry, I don't even want to say that word, but that is, you're healing through it. You're like just neutralizing through it. And let me just tune in. There's a part, like, look, there's an internal part of you that knows exactly how to heal all of this. This to me is not an external card. And I just sort of have, I just, look, even with gurus, even with teachers, even with lineages, I have so many teachers, mentors, guides incarnate in human form. And it's one of my biggest blessings is I somehow have this uncanny blessing of coming across the best mentors, the best teachers, the purest healers. And it's just like comes from so many different lineages. And I'm just like literally so grateful for them. But at the same time, never outsource that level of empowerment and or the healing that you achieve and or the restoration of the wisdom, because there's a part of you that is vibrating in resonance to receive that. So it's not all them. And I just hope as you go through this and you're going to be healing through this, and it just definitely looks like you could use some help here. Don't be afraid to ask for help, as in like hire somebody to help you through this, healers or oracles or shamans or mentors, guides to assist you through the process. And some people are in one polarity, don't want to receive the help because they're like, well, I know I can heal it myself. And then some people are in a polarity where they just rely on other people to help them. Just there's a fine balance between that. Humans are interdependent. You know I can cook my own food, but I love eating outside. So, I know I can cook my food, but I'll eat out. And then it's like, I know I can give myself a massage, but I like to just receive that. So I get a massage. Stuff like that. You don't need a healer. I mean, you can always do it on your own, but it's so nice to receive that. It's so nice to just let it reflect itself onto you. This healing, this innate healing, you can allow it to be mirrored by someone else that is pure and that is connected with your soul. Okay, but anyway, you're moving through it and you don't even see what is coming. This auspicious light portal, as you see this, literally a light portal. I feel like your heart is going through a massive healing. Tender. We have the sanctuary. Look at that. You have good luck and sanctuary. But I feel like the sanctuary is internal. Like you're really, oh my gosh, look at this rainbow bridge between the two cards. This is, come on, cooperate. Okay, look, listen to me. See, sometimes you have to yell. The rainbow arc, it's like parallel. You're coming to a space where balance becomes like a more of a natural state for you. Like, so no matter how much you get pulled into both directions, whether it's like super light and happy and fluffy versus super dark and shadowy, it's like you get this cloak of balance. You cultivate like this layer of balance that neutralizes both experiences. But as one of my other mentors, my dearest teachers say, balance is not a fixed state. Balance is not a still space. It's constantly moving. I love how I get to just drop all these, the wisdom from my teachers. I love them. They're some of the greatest blessings, teachers and guides. Okay. Obstacle, find another road, flexibility, change. And then we have Wisdom Keeper, new perspective, study and learning. Okay, so this is ahead of you. And this is the way. The obstacle is the way. Have you ever heard of the words, the obstacle is the way? I think it's a book by the guy who wrote Ego is the Enemy. That Stoic dude who wrote Daily Stoic. The obstacle is the way. Whatever obstacle that you're currently moving through is literally the shortcut. Not that you're expecting this as you're going through this initiation, because you can't fake the process of victory through initiation. You're generally going through this obstacle and you're being challenged to perceive things in a new way, genuinely perceive things in a new way. But this is leading to this, like, this is an otherworldly chapter. This is an otherworldly transition into a different octave of existence. It's literally like a different octave. Obviously, the transition period, you're not going to notice it as much as you're going to notice when it's finished stabilizing. So, do you know those moments where in your life, where things happened that made a drastic difference in the trajectory of your life? Like an opportunity came, or a relationship happened, or like some kind of blessing was bestowed, and it changes the tone of the entire next like decade. One of those things, some of those things is about to happen. But currently you're moving through an energetic initiation. And this obstacle isn't like physical, but it's genuinely energetic. It looks internal. It feels like there's a deep shedding going on of some inorganic structures in your mind that never really fit there. Feels like you're going through a huge clearing. So just continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing it currently. This is the current energy. But I'm happy to announce for you that this is up next. Okay, what is next? The next set of cards is around near future. Universal love. Wow. Didn't you just have this union card? Yup. You have love coming in. Like genuine, compatible love. Somewhat of a counterpart energy. Intention. Conscious creation. Manifest your desires. Conscious communication. Energy is language. Throat chakra. Didn't you just have a throat chakra card? Don't you love how synchronized all of this is? Wait, where was that throat one? Let me find it. Was it like an expression? Okay. Next. Aw, look at that. Answered prayers. Didn't you just have an answered prayers card? Look, this one. Auspicious wishes, granted blessings. Like your blessings are coming. I'm so happy for you. I could cry. Like you're genuinely, your heart's desires, maybe the ones that you've been harboring for like decades, or if you're like 10 years old, then maybe just a few years. My readings are all fine, except I swear. I don't have any like weird stuff that I talk about. If you're young, you could still watch this, except sometimes I swear. I'm sorry. It's just an authentic expression of me. You're getting your prayers are becoming answered. So there's a part of you that could genuinely feel this, because you can't not feel this. Look at this energy. Just look at this energy. Wow. But I feel like right now you're just super confused because you don't know how things are going to unfold. And because you're suspended, it literally is like this very uncomfortable stage where you can't see anything. Your eyes are closed. You feel tied up. You're dealing with fate. And you're needing to adopt a new perspective to prepare you for this brand new octave. It's a completely new Wow, by the time this new era, it's a new era. I'm like, it's not a new chapter. It's not even like a new identity. It's not a new, like nothing fits, but what fits is it's a new era. Oh my gosh, isn't New Era like a hat company? Sorry. You should buy a hat from that company to celebrate this moment. It's like our little inside joke. Success. Oh my God. You're going to be successful. Do you see these cards are insane? Whatever. Resonance. You found resonance. Like you basically found, so this is hidden truths. Like you found the deepest resonance to your internal self. Through all of these uncomfortable challenges, you found that which is genuinely, truly you. Because you were pushed into all these different weird circumstances and situations, and then it stripped you of what is genuinely you through going through all these trials and tribulations. You found what is truly valuable to you. You found what is true for you. And so when you have this level of clear resonance, this is why you're just magnetizing these answered prayers, the success, and the wish, the blessings. With Holy Grail, finding sacredness, inner discovery, which is exactly the same thing that I just echoed. I am presence. You literally have 2 I am cards. That is like really uncanny. It's like some of you have literally tapped into some spectrums of enlightenment. Not kidding. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all these types of cards coming out. Akashic Stargates, aligned with purpose. See this alignment, the resonance alignment. Right now, you feel like you're at a crossroads, but there's literally no wrong path. All these choices, you're at a level of alignment with yourself. You're at a level of attunement to your truest self. It's like you've cut away violently everything that is not in alignment with you. And you've been continually doing that over and over and over again. Now you're at a place where even if you take a left turn or a right turn or a downturn or an upturn, they're all going to an aligned path because of the level of resonance that you've cultivated to your soul. So you don't have to worry about, do I go this way or that way? Any way is going to lead you to your highest path, which is just a resonance bandwidth, but you've already maintained the resonance bandwidth. So wherever you go is just going to become more and more aligned. Halls of learning, you have all these hallways, you know, like we have all these gateways, these hallways. So right now you're definitely at a transition period. Earth star activation. Okay. I'm going to clear up some of these. Then the tarot cards, we have the Fool, a brand new beginning, literally new era. This is a new era. It's literally a new era. But right now you might feel like this. You know what I feel like? This image that I see in my third eye is like this slimy, like imagine something came out of a cocoon, or imagine like a snake just shed its skin, or like something comes out of an egg. Like it's like you came out of an egg and you have this goo all around you. So it's like so uncomfortable. That's like literally what look at this Ace of Cups with the Holy Grail. And it came up with the universal love. You're genuinely tapping in. You're genuinely tapping in. I'm going to leave some of my favorite cards on the table so you can keep looking at them and see the vibes. Who would have thought this pile was going to be like that? I didn't. I'm sorry, like what? Good for you. You have Ace of Cups and Holy Grail with the universal love. This is like the same thing depicted in different ways. But you're unlocking true love because you generally love yourself. In the core aspect of yourself. Like you generally love yourself. Maybe you have moments that don't feel completely like that, but just deep inside, like the truest core of you genuinely loves the core of you. So this also came from like years from what I see of devotion to the divine. Like you are devoted to the divine. Anything that is not in alignment, you don't care. You genuinely devoted yourself to the divine, and you're going to see how that comes out and spills out with this, some sort of a counterpart, but this is also internal. But this literally looks to me like two people and two priorities. So there's a part of you that is feeling conflicted because you think you have to balance between this and that. I think you literally had another, oh my gosh, look at this. Why do you keep getting the same cards over and over again? It's not the same cards. Obviously, this is actually a macrocosmic energy. This is microcosmic energy. But still, there's this whole thing about balancing. So this is what you are negotiating, how to balance between perhaps like various faculties of yourself, faculties of your mind, maybe your various subpersonalities or two different values. But like what I want to suggest to you is like, maybe you're just perceiving it as conflicting, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're viewing it as a compromised one or the other, but it's not. So the guidance that is coming up is like, you could actually have both and in a more significantly more meaningful way than you realize. So yeah, try to take away the mental conflict around how you're framing the different values or different priorities, because you're at a place where you're not going to experience reality in the way that you thought it was going to unfold previously, or the norm of the masses or the society where how it is for most people is not going to be your experience, because you're approaching this from a new kind of operating system, which is what we've been touching on, the whole reason why you're being initiated from the first place. Another example that an example that comes to mind is like if you have discipline versus freedom. It's like people view discipline as a loss of freedom, but sometimes it could actually enhance freedom depending on how you approach it, how you framework it. So whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, it seems that you need a new framework to look at it and a new system to look at it, because everybody has a system of reason or a system of beliefs too, but that basically filters out your experience and what you're capable of experiencing to a large degree. It's not 100%, but to a large degree, your kind of process of filtering reason, logic, intuition. So cultivate a different system, cultivate an upgraded system, and cultivate an upgraded perspective around whatever it is that you feel conflicted about. There's a third way that you're not looking at. There's another option. There's details that you can adjust that will change the entire experience for you. So this is like a creative problem solving. Ooh, there's 10 of wands because you feel like there's too much to handle. That overwhelm, but we talked about it. When you feel like look, wands are passion. This guy has 10 wands. Some people don't even have any. This is not an issue. You have a lot of passions and you have a lot of, I guess, you could say you have a lot of priorities. You have a lot of things you're excited about. You have a lot of things that you're interested in, and you just feel overwhelmed. But again, being overwhelmed could be a good sign that you have a lot of life force. But again, you're looking at it from a perspective of like, well, I have to do all of these things. How do I juggle it out? But what if I told you that when you had all these different interests, all you have to do is focus on what out of all of these excites you the most at this time. And sometimes taking care of that just naturally takes care of all of the other things that you thought you had to do. We have the Four of Swords, which is rest and rejuvenation. And last card we have here is Queen of Cups. Look at all these cups. You're overflowing with good vibes. I just want to tell you this funny experience because it reminds me of like, there was a time that I did like a microdose of Aya, and what I could see was like my own energy. Like from a third person's perspective. So it was like I just transcended my own identity, and it happens sometimes, and just like observing myself or my field from a space of neutrality. And then just that day, I just could feel this like rainbow energy just that is always with me. That was like my rainbow energy. And I was like, I have such good vibes. I love my energy. It's so good. I'm so sorry. But I'm sure like some of you could genuinely relate. Like you're overflowing with good vibes and good energy to a degree that maybe you don't even realize. Just like enjoy your vibes, like bask in it. Just chill out. Love it. Like some people would just love to be in that energy even for a moment, but you get to just live in it because it's you. You have just overflowing with that divine energy of divine vibes, good vibes, and the degree of genuine self-love that attracts these external manifestation of love that is about to enter your life quite soon. This was your current energy, right? That was your future energy. Oh, that was your near future. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that was your near future. Okay, now the final placement is going to be your integration points. How to integrate everything, all of that, to stabilize it by the end of the year. Fox spirit, think on your feet. Cow spirit, the miracles are endless. The miracles are endless. Sorry. Peacock, let it shine. Didn't you just have another shining card? Why do you keep getting these synchronicities? I mean, like, that's with literally every pile, but like, look at that. You just had this card too. Let it shine. My light is shining bright. You're about to shine really bright. You're about to shine really bright. Whether it be like your own community, or like maybe some of you are in a line of work that is more visible. Maybe you're going to get recognized more and more in whatever field that you're working in, or just from the neighborhood. I don't know. What are the other options? You're just going to shine. More importantly, you're going to shine interdimensionally. Like you're going to be a beacon of lights, even more lights. And it's just like, say you're floating around in the fifth dimension and you look down on Earth, you would be shining bright from that level. Be at peace. Sweet results await. Look at that again. Sweet results await. It's coming. I know you could feel it. If you get all these cards and synchronicities, I know this reading is not the only one. You keep getting signs that like incredible results await, and you're gonna enjoy the journey. Balance. Okay. Do I need to bring the other cards again? We had balancing, balance, and then this balance. You gotta balance. I'm sorry, like that's your integration point, is balance, but also with an understanding that balance is not a fixed state. It is not a still space. Balance is dynamic. Balance is ever unfolding. Balance is always moving. But one of your core themes as a soul is balance. I know that sounds a little drastic, but I gotta say what I see. Like one of your deepest expressions right now is balance. So it's like, you're probably one of those people who like, nobody would call you like a light and fluffy light worker, because you just could see the level of the beautiful darkness that is simultaneously well integrated. And it's like that non-duality. Non-duality could be one of your things, just like me. We have guidance. This is interesting. It's like, this reminds me of like the astral field. Look at all these false light beings. All that dead lost souls. You know, maintaining balance, which she seems to be doing, is like balancing herself through. First of all, oh my gosh, there's a lot of messages that come out with this. Don't look to others for your navigation. Your blueprint is so unique that if you try to compare or contrast your path to other people, or if you even try to do the way that it's supposed to be done, it's not relevant for you. I would even almost say that you're a fine balance between the ancient past and the future. You're like trailblazing that fine line. The second message is to stabilize your coherent crystalline field through the astral, which is that fourth dimension is a dimension that I've avoided for a really long time for a good reason, until recently, for a good reason. But really, when it comes time to activate your crystalline coherence through the astral, it brings about a really profound and deep integration to the earth, your earthly expression, and your ego just becomes a fluid dance. This flexible boundaries. Okay, we have glam. Okay, you might be glam. I love that energy. I love that glam energy. This is Venusian. Look at that. There's another union energy with the integration point. Knowledge. Sorry, these piles are getting messy. Effort, conquering your demons, shadow work. So you, basically by now you're like an expert at shadow work, whether you realize that or not. Unless you're one of those people who keep watching a reading even if it doesn't resonate for some reason. I mean that's cute, but yeah, you're really good at conquering your demons. Good job. You're good at shadow work. Harmonious in action. Damn, that is deep as fuck. That is Wu Wei. If you don't know what that is, just look it up. It's a Taoist. Harmonious in action. Raven, magic. Why is there so many cards? Why did I pull so many cards for this? I don't know, guys. I'm gonna clear some of this so I can keep going. What was I thinking? Why did I pull so many? Okay, we're still with the dragons right now. I guess I really wanted to read into your integration points. Kali Ma, oh my gosh. What's with you in the shadows? Maiden innocence. See? Do you see how it's like Kali Ma and then maiden innocence? You're like this juxtaposition of energies, and that's part of your incarnation is like, how do these opposing forces dance so harmoniously together? That is the wonder that you offer. We have Selkie, come out of hiding, embrace who you truly are. So this idea around genuinely showing up and shining your light, which again, let me bring it up. Let it shine. My light is shining bright. It keeps coming up. It's gonna be such a theme for you, integrating. And you don't have to start with like drastic actions, but just really little small steps. Even like, let's say it's just as trivial as you're going to run a small errand down the street, and just to put on an outfit that resembles more of what you like than just literally going and trying to disappear and look as unattractive as possible, which one of my friends used to laugh because actually it's just a couple of people who are really observant. They know that sometimes I like try to look unattractive because I don't want to catch any attention. But even still, like, you could protect your essence, but like you could still let it be a finer balance of like what truly genuinely expresses your authenticity and expression. And seeing that I came up with a glam card before, which is right here, that glam energy, that Venusian energy. Some of you are like really going through a Venusian calibration, Venusian soul aspect, which I'm going to rant about in another time because Venus is one of my deepest soul lineages is from Venus. But essentially, it's like alchemizing vanity, like whatever is on the surface, no longer needing to see it as something that is an obstacle to the depth of things, but allowing it to be the reflection of the depth of things. And it makes a huge difference between superficial beauty and genuine, true, authentic beauty that is powered from the divine. Thank you. Gratitude. Didn't you have another gratitude card? Sorry, I keep pointing that out, but like, how uncanny is it that, do you see how many cards are being used? How many different decks that these are pulled from? And then the same key words come up. I don't know, there's way too many cards here. I'm not going to look for it. You're literally going to be thankful for everything that you went through. You're going to be thankful for yourself, for sticking through all that shit. You're going to be thankful for your life path that has led you to here. You're going to be thankful for freaking you're going to have a thankful moment where you're just going to purge gratitude. Like, you're going to literally purge gratitude. Like, you're just going to explode in gratitude quite soon, or maybe even now. But like, literally, you're going to create this, you're going to go through this transition, and you're just going to just melt in gratitude. So this is an integration point. You could start to shower yourself and your life, because you could generally probably tune into this already, that life is about to pivot into a new path that is so blissful and grateful for you. For the most part, obviously, there are still shadows, and the reason why you're able to access this is because you're not suppressing or denying the shadows. It's quite clear you are a champion of conquering the internal demons. But you're going to celebrate and be grateful. So you could start today by, first of all, getting the new era hat as an inside joke. I'll also get one. Literally, I have no agenda. I just thought it was funny that I was just looking to channel, and that came through. So it's our little inside joke. And then whatever you do to celebrate, when something incredible happens, what do you do? Like, what is the first thing that you do that comes to mind, that when something absolutely incredible happens, how you celebrate? I'd like you to schedule that today. Sacred well, replenishment, self-care, giving from a place of plenty. And last but not least, we have clear waters, clear vision, confirmation, right timing, opportunity. So looks like you're going to come through with an opportunity or a circumstance or a beautiful portal opening up. And it's just going to make so much sense to you that this was the time for it, because you may have wanted some opportunities or circumstances in the past where you felt disappointed that it didn't align, or maybe you went through continual phases because all these shadows are coming up that you've had to integrate. And as you come into this specific opportunity, blessing that is opening up, you're going to see exactly that this was the right time and this is the perfect circumstance. Everything has been building up to this portal that will keep on and on and on in its unfolding. But really, you truly are reaching another height where all of these difficulties in the past are going to become quite distant, and you're opening up to a new vibratory spectrum that you've been cultivating for the last years. And some of you have done such a great job. I'm just going to go ahead and say all of you. I'm literally just sometimes thinking there's going to be a couple of people who are watching this that is not. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say everybody here who is listening, you have done such an amazing job. I'm literally so proud of you. I can see the depth and the devotion of spiritual work. And not just fluffy, fake spiritual work, but genuine spiritual work that you've done. And it's now paying off. But that wasn't even the point. But it's paying off. Okay, Amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with me here. If you like my transmissions, check out my website where you can find more information about the things that I offer. And I'll see you in the next video. Lots of love. Enjoy your blessings, bitch.